About 1 p.m. on Friday, November 22, 1963, Dallas police officer J.D. Tippit hurried into the Top 10 record store at 338 West Jefferson Street in the Oak Cliff section of the city. President Kennedy had been murdered just a few miles away in Dealey Plaza about 30 minutes prior. Officer Tippit quickly asked 18-year-old Clark Louis Cartines behind the counter to use a phone that he had used before in the store and was granted permission. Cartines remembers that Tippit asked several people to move aside as he was in such a hurry. He dialed a number and waited for what would have been 7 or 8 rings, but apparently no one answered his call. He hurried out of the store, got in his police cruiser, and sped off across Jefferson and down Bishop, where he ran the stop sign, turning right onto Sunset. Officer Tippit would be dead less than 10 minutes later. If that call made by Officer Tippit had been answered, and people could have identified whom he had spoken to, we might have a much better idea of the conspirators in both murders. I believe Officer Tippit tried to call Dallas Police Captain W.R. Westbrook in the Dallas Police headquarters, a man who played a big part in the planning of Kennedy's assassination, and also the man whom I believe was tasked to kill Lee Oswald. If Westbrook couldn't kill him in Dealey Plaza, then Tippit was tasked to capture or kill Oswald as he tried to escape by bus or taxi over the Houston Street Viaduct. Although Tippit didn't know it, I believe his death was Plan B, only to be executed if Oswald was still free and in the Oak Cliff section of the city. This twisted tale, like all twisted tales, is best told from the beginning. As many know, JFK's trip to Texas had been pleasant, and he was welcomed heartily in San Antonio, Houston, and Fort Worth the day prior to visiting Dallas. And although Kennedy had been warned right-wing extremists were none too happy to see him, the crowds in Dallas seemed just as warm as elsewhere in Texas. What Kennedy probably was not fully aware of was the active plots to kill him in Chicago 3 weeks earlier and in Tampa less than a week earlier. Kennedy's trip to Chicago for the Army Air Force football game had to be canceled at the very last minute on Saturday, November 2nd, due to reports of active shooters and not one, but 2 assassination plots. But Secret Service Chief James Rowley, whose agents were handling the threats in Chicago, bottled up all reports of the severe danger, even making his agents give verbal reports rather than the normally obligatory written reports, especially for a situation that serious. Neither the Secret Service agents who would be with Kennedy nor the Dallas police were told of the Chicago plot before Kennedy's visit to Dallas, and other warnings were also disregarded. Kennedy had no indication that the very Secret Service he depended on for his protection was complicit in the planning of his murder at the very highest level. Secret Service Chief Rowley will also be a prime player in the staged autopsy proceedings and photographic forgeries associated later with that supposed autopsy. Kennedy also didn't know that the CIA chief he had fired, Allen Dulles, had not really gone anywhere. As documented in his excellent book, The Devil's Chessboard, author David Talbot details Dulles' full schedule of appointments taking place from his Georgetown home. Dulles would also be at the CIA headquarters known as The Farm in Northern Virginia the whole assassination weekend. The Farm is where clandestine operations were planned and CIA operative assassins were trained. Lee Oswald was a U.S. Marine who had been picked out for intelligence work and sent to Monterey Language School in Monterey, California to learn Russian. He had top-secret clearance and worked as a radar operator and analyst for U-2 spy flights until he was recruited by the CIA's James Angleton for a fake defector to Russia program. While Oswald was in Russia, the CIA under Dulles Sangleton and Richard Bissell, Deputy Director of Plans, already was beginning to use imposters to put forth a second Oswald that would be recognized as belligerent, rude, dangerous, and a loner. When Oswald returned from Russia, he was given a job at Stover Childs, a firm doing highly classified security, intelligence, and photographic work for the U.S. government. Had Oswald been a real defector, of course he would not have been able to receive clearance for a job at that facility. Oswald was also given a job at the Riley Coffee Company, a CIA front that allowed Oswald to be gone for days at a time as he accompanied Guy Bannister to college campuses for recruitment efforts and worked with David Ferry and Dr. Mary Sherman of the Ochsner Clinic in an attempt to engineer a fast-acting cancer virus. Oswald was being handled by Guy Bannister, former FBI Chicago office director, and he was given office space at 544 Camp Street, Bannister's office. Oswald's fake double became extremely active in the months prior to JFK's assassination, making memorable appearances at an auto dealership, a gun shop, a shooting range, a restaurant, and more. Oswald was a loyal soldier and probably never had a clue he was being set up to be the patsy in one of the biggest events of the century. Although all indications are he knew assassination plots were active. In fact, it was a tip from an FBI informant named Lee that saved President Kennedy 3 weeks earlier in Chicago. I believe Oswald was also doing everything he could to make sure JFK did not get killed in Dallas. Officer J.D. Tippit had right-wing leanings, was a member of the John Birch Society, and I believe was recruited to the plot to kill JFK in Dealey Plaza as the man who would capture, but most probably kill, Lee Oswald. The main conspirator was Dallas Police Captain W.R. Westbrook, head of personnel, and a man who would later be outed as a CIA operative and would be stationed in South Vietnam as a CIA advisor to the Saigon Police Department. Westbrook's right-hand man was Reserve Officer Kenneth Croy. Croy will figure prominently in our story soon. Whatever the mechanisms of the actual assassination, and I believe the many witnesses who placed 2 men on the 6th floor of the depository at 12:15 p.m., whoever the grassy knoll shooter or shooters were, and any other shooters in Dealey Plaza that day, their plan worked. Kennedy was caught in a triangulation of fire and never stood a chance. A slow-moving Secret Service detail, slowed even more by heavy drinking the night before at a bar called The Cellar, did not help. John F. Kennedy, the 35th President of the United States, sustained multiple gunshot wounds, including at least 1 mortal headshot. So this is where our story really starts. Kennedy's motorcade finally sped away towards Parkland Hospital. Lee Oswald, who had been in or near the lunchroom on the 2nd floor of the Texas School Book Depository, left the building and walked east on Elm Street and boarded the Marcellus Street bus stopped in traffic. Several minutes later, a man looking strikingly like Lee Oswald was seen by Dallas Police Sheriff Roger Craig and others.
As I was searching the south curb of Elm Street, I heard a shrill whistle. And I looked up. It just drew my attention. It was coming from across the street. And there was a light green Rambler station wagon driving real slow west on Elm Street. And the driver was leaning over to his right, looking up at a man running down the grass. So I immediately tried to cross the street to take these 2 people into custody for questioning. just, everybody else was coming to the scene. These were the only two people leaving.
As is documented in his excellent book, Harvey and Lee, researcher and author John Armstrong will make an ironclad case that after the assassination, Captain Westbrook drove the mile from his office in the Dallas Police Headquarters building to Dealey Plaza. Westbrook will later report that he walked that mile, but no one will remember seeing him, and his police vehicle will also play a part in our story in short order. With Westbrook was reserve policeman Kenneth Crory. Oswald's Marcella Street bus was stopped in assassination-related traffic, and Oswald disembarked, walking to the Greyhound bus station, where he got a taxi driven by William Whaley. But not long after Oswald got off that bus, we know two policemen got on, under the guise of checking passengers for weapons. Armstrong believes these two men were Captain W.R. Westbrook and Reserve Sergeant Kenneth Crory, and I believe he is exactly correct. There is little doubt Oswald had been instructed to get on that Marcella Street bus rather than his ordinary bus, which was directly behind. There is also little doubt that Westbrook and Crory knew he would be on that bus and would have at least arrested him, but much more probably killed him then and there. The conspirators did not want Oswald alive. They had set up his background as a lone nut meticulously. Now he had to die so the ruse could play out. But Oswald was trying to stick to whatever schedule he had been given and thought a taxi could get him more quickly to the Texas Theater, where he would meet a contact. So Westbrook and Crory missed the first opportunity to capture or preferably kill the patsy. The second opportunity would belong to Officer J.D. Tippit. Around 12:40 p.m., Dallas Police Officer J.D. Tippit was observed by 5 witnesses sitting in his patrol car watching traffic at the Gloco station. The Gloco station was at 1502 North Zang Boulevard, just across the Trinity River from downtown Dallas via the Houston Street Viaduct. They were Tippit friends, photographer Al Volkland and his wife Lou, and 3 employees of the Gloco station, Tom Mullins, Emmett Hollingshead, and J.B. Shorty Lewis. They all knew Tippit personally. Tippit knew that the Marcella Street bus stopped right by the Gloco station, and Tippit was obviously looking for that bus. When the bus came, however, it did not stop to let any passengers off. Tippit pulled out fast to follow the bus and try and figure out where Oswald was. Some researchers feel that Tippit's job may have been to get Oswald to Redbird Airport or somewhere else for escape, but I believe this is totally contrary to the plan. The plan had to be for Tippit to kill Oswald either immediately at the bus stop or shortly after picking him up to pretend to transport him to the Texas Theater, where Oswald had been ordered to go to meet his contact. Again, it would have done the conspirators no good to have the patsy escape or be arrested. They needed him dead. And I also think that Officer Tippit was hoping that he was not going to be the man to murder Oswald. It's easy to imagine his handlers pumping him with right-wing anti-Kennedy rhetoric for months or even years to get him on board this plot. Oswald left the Texas School Book Depository quickly after the shots rang out. Did the conspirators expect him to be there longer? Did they have a plan to kill him in that building? It's not clear, but I think it's probable. I think Westbrook and Crory's presence near the building is an indication that they may have hoped to kill him there first. When they learned he had left, they knew he would be on the Marcellus bus, and although it would be public, Oswald had to die. It was only after Oswald's near-miraculous decision to disembark that bus did Tippit come into place as Plan B. Kill Oswald after picking him up at the bus stop near the Gloco station. And that didn't go right either. When Tippit left the Gloco station, he needed information. What had happened? Where was Oswald? Remember, this is within 10 to 15 minutes of JFK's shooting, and that information could not be asked for over the police radio. Tippit must have been feeling desperate to locate Oswald. We are not 100% sure if Tippit pulled over driver James Andrews before or after going into the Top 10 record store to use the phone. In either case, the location was 2 blocks from the store, and Tippit did not use normal police procedures. He did not turn on his lights and siren. Instead, he pulled in front of Andrews' car, cutting him off and forcing him to stop. According to Andrews, Tippit did not say a word, just looked in his car and checked the backseat area, then raced back to his patrol car and took off. Why was Tippit acting this way? Did he think he had seen someone in Andrews' car? Probably, and he needed to find Oswald. When Tippit called Captain Westbrook from the Top 10 record store phone, he was looking for information and instructions. Tippit had not heard of the shooting of Oswald on his police radio in either the Texas School Book Depository or the Marcellus bus, and he had not been able to accomplish the murder himself. So when Westbrook did not answer, he knew he had to proceed to 10th and Patton as the fallback part of the plan. Westbrook and Crory got off the Marcellus Street bus and knew they had missed their best opportunity to kill Oswald. They had to be hoping Tippit would save the day and do the murder for them. Westbrook and Crory already had a wallet with them that they would have exchanged for Oswald's real wallet if they had managed to kill him. They also had a gun that they would have claimed to find on Oswald. But they also had to make sure that the fake Oswald got away. Wherever that green Rambler left off the imposter Oswald, Westbrook and Crory picked him up. They needed him to perform Plan C, kill Tippit. Tippit may have been destined to be eliminated anyway at some point, even if he had managed to pick up Oswald and kill him. It is difficult to imagine his CIA overseers leaving Tippit alive for an extended period. But now they would use Tippit as a murder victim of Lee Oswald and cement the case as to why Oswald would then be killed in just a few minutes in the Texas theater. They needed to hurry. They drove to 1026 North Beckley Street in the Oak Cliff section of Dallas, the temporary residence of Lee Oswald. Westbrook and Crory did not know if Oswald was there, but they beeped their horn twice. According to landlady Earlene Roberts, she saw the 2 officers in the car when she looked out, and it was patrol car 207. They then proceeded to the pre-planned meet. They drove into an alley between 404 and 410 East 10th Street, coming to stop between 2 houses, just feet from where Tippit would be gunned down. I believe the fake Oswald got out of patrol car 207, leaving Westbrook and Crory inside. He walked a few steps to the sidewalk and waited for Tippit's car to appear. When it did, the fake Oswald spoke to him for a minute through the air vent on the passenger side. From here, Tippit could see Westbrook and Crory in the car a few feet away in the alley between the houses. As Tippit got out of his car to discuss the situation with all 3 men, the fake Oswald shot him 4 times, killing him instantly. Onlookers will report seeing the police car in the alley, and one will report seeing Westbrook check Tippit to make sure he was dead. The killer then proceeded to make a show of unloading and loading his gun to allow onlookers to later recover the cartridges easily. Oswald moved down 10th Street and walked south on Patton, again being seen by many. In the meantime, Officer Kenneth Crory got out of Westbrook's car and stayed on scene, where he would claim to be the first officer there. He would also be the officer to say he found Oswald's wallet, although no one else saw it, which he would then turn over to Westbrook. Westbrook would be very vocal, asking everyone whether they knew who Lee Oswald or Alex Hiddell was. Several witnesses state that there was an officer on scene as soon as the shooting occurred. This was Croy. After Tippit's killing, Westbrook would back up down the alley, drive a few blocks, and pick up the fake Oswald. He would then deliver him to the alley behind the Texas Theater, where that fake Oswald would go into the theater, up into the balcony, and be able to oversee what was happening with the real Oswald down below. Westbrook returned to 10th and Patton and pretended to receive the wallet from Croy and discover Oswald's ID as well as that of Alex Cadell. Westbrook would then wait for the first report of a suspicious man at the Texas Theater and rush there to be first in. He carried a shotgun and no doubt planned to do everything he could to finish off the real Oswald. Witnesses will say they saw Westbrook pointing his shotgun down between officers trying to get a shot off as the officers wrestled with Oswald. Fortunately for them, Westbrook was not able to get that shot off. Oswald was taken into custody out in front of the building, but the fake Oswald made a mistake and tried to leave too soon. He was spotted on the stairs to the balcony looking like Oswald, so he was arrested. He was brought back out the back of the theater where he was placed in a patrol car and then released when out of sight. This fake Oswald will make his way either by himself or with the help of others to a landing strip near the Trinity River, where he will be picked up by a CIA plane and transported to Roswell, New Mexico. There will be a lot of back and forth about the gun used in the Tippit killing, the type of munitions, the number of bullets found, the question of whether officers placed their IDs on the bullets, and more. In actuality, none of this mattered. It didn't matter because just like with the 6.5 Mannlicher Carcano rifle associated with Lee Oswald, the pistol and ammunition can be manipulated even easier, as it will all go through, you guessed it, William Westbrook.